Welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. This is DV LeBron, and today I have a very special guest. I have Mr. Kevin Crouch. He is your local weather guy. Thank you so much for coming on, Mr. Crouch. I really appreciate it. And before we get started, I wanted to tell you that my wife wanted you to know that she is your greatest fan and that you've helped her through many a storms, and she is very grateful for the service you provide to this community. So am I. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Not a whole lot going on weather-wise, so it's nice to have a little bit of a night off. We were not quite sure what tonight was going to look like, but it looks like the sun's going to race ahead of any storms we were going to have. So we might get a little bit of rain, but nothing too exciting.
Well, that's definitely good. So, can you tell the people of Ellis County a little bit about yourself and why you started in weather and how that went about?
Sure. Yeah, I started Ellis County Weather back in October of 2015, and I started it as a Twitter page, just as kind of an experimental, just a hobby, kind of see what social media and weather were going to be like, kind of on a local level. I've always loved weather, always been obsessed with the science of it, and I would get so many people that would text me and message me and want to know information about storms that I happen to be watching. And so I started the Twitter page so that my phone would stop blowing up quite as much. And everybody kind of had one central hub to get all the information that I was going to share. Then in December of 2015, just a couple months after that, there was a tornado that started right around Midway Airport, moved up to the northeast over to Glen Heights, and that Twitter page was getting flooded with requests for more information and retweeting and that kind of thing. And I was at my parents' house. I wasn't really fully prepared for that event. And it was all I could do to keep that updated. So I quickly shifted over to Facebook, and it has just grown and grown ever since. We've got over 26,000 people. I think we just cracked 26,500 that are following that page now. And I never would have imagined it would have gotten that big. But now I'm able to use the studio that I've been able to build right here in my home to broadcast live severe weather events. And I'm also sponsored by a few local businesses that are just fantastic with some other content to just keep everybody informed.
Yeah, I saw that some of the locals are definitely supporting you, and I love that because we're local media. We're not, a lot of the media that come to our way are national, or they serve the metroplex itself, and rarely tell us about the weather that's happening in our neck of the woods or what's happening in our neck of the woods. Period. So I really appreciate that you do this show. And so you were talking about the science of weather. You found that interesting. Tell me, like, how is it that one of those big questions is how, with Texas being the weather changing so rapidly, how is it that you as a weatherman, without getting so into the weeds, how do you get that? How do you figure that out? What's coming?
That's a loaded question, but also I'll try to simplify that as much as possible. A lot of it, what I tell people a lot of the time is that weather is a matter of patterns and behavior and understanding why things, the cause and effect relationship between a storm doing this and this impacting it and this happening as a result. And so a lot of the battle is just knowing how storms tend to act, knowing how they tend to perform, and being able to tell on any given day what a certain number of different ingredients and certain number of scenarios might bring. You're always going to hear a chance of storms, a chance of rain, a chance this might happen. The likelihood of severe weather is this much. And it's all, so much of it is probabilities. And if a storm does develop, you can pretty well guess what it's going to do based on what the atmosphere is doing, what fronts are around, those kind of things. And so so much of it is just studying and knowing what to look for, but also just the experience that comes with having watched North Texas storms for years and years and years. And you see the same scenario time and time again. You go through enough springs, and generally you kind of just know what to expect. You know the storm's tells, if you will, the little signs that one thing or another is going to happen. And so experience is invaluable, as well as just plain old book learning and just research and kind of learning what those different pieces of the atmosphere mean and what the different numbers and levels and things mean as well. So hopefully that kind of simplifies that answer for you.
Tell me what is it as far as equipment is concerned? Um, what kind of equipment that you have that makes you similar to some of the other places that are doing weather? Obviously, those are multi-million-dollar operations. You're a local guy. What do you got going on as far as equipment?
So if you want to become just a shameless plug here, relevant or shameless, if you want to become a supporter of Ellis County Weather on Facebook, I'm actually going to be posting a video probably this weekend, actually showing how I do everything and kind of giving a little of a behind the scenes view of just how I accomplish all of this. And a big part of it is programs called Radar Omega, Radar Scope. Those are the radar programs that I use. Radar Omega is such a useful program because there's so many different models and maps and different things that allow me to see what's coming, what's happening, and to be able to show that to you on a very local level and what's actually happening minute by minute. I have 3 computer screens. When I'm broadcasting, I have anywhere from 3 to 6 screens going at once. At times I have a radio in my ear where I can hear the storm spotters. I've got the lights and the webcam, everything for the presentation's sake. I've got a good microphone here. I've got a monitor here that actually will show what my weather station on the top of the house is actually doing as well, the readings that it's getting. And so there's a whole lot of sensory overload that goes into it. And the TV screen behind me, for a time, we were using that actually to project the radar and everything, but the clarity was we were just not able to actually achieve that. And so we ended up just going with this model where it all goes through the computer, but the TV screen, I'm able to put a radar up there as well, so that if I am working on something and I need just to be able to kind of monitor that in the background, I can do that there too. But it's a combination. I've got one very very strong computer that's doing a lot of different things at once. My moderator, Matt Quick, is really great at trying to monitor some of that information as well and keep me informed, monitor the chat, see what information's coming in there, keep the chat civil as well. You always have the comedians out there, but it's an operation that after every broadcast, I look around and go, how in the world did I achieve that? But it's just coping with that and putting up with that sensory overload and being able to think quick when a situation is going on, to be able to manage the stream on one screen, have the radar in front of me on one screen, then different sources of information on another. And so it's not a cheap setup, but it's definitely one unlike anything I've seen anywhere else.
And it's definitely informative to the people of Ellis County. And one of the things I'd like to know is, while you've been up and been online, what was the scariest weather event that you had happen in this county?
Ooh,
where you felt, and kind of tell the audience kind of what you feel when you're getting these messages, because I've seen these messages. Oh my God, there's a tornado. Oh, I can see the tornado. What's going through your mind, and what are you trying to do at that point?
So back in 2019, there was a tornado that moved through the northern part of the county. The tornado struck Midlothian, and then also struck Ann Ferris as well. And there was a storm that was a little bit atypical in the way it presented, and it wasn't rotating in some of the traditional way that you're used to. It didn't have the classic hook echo that you're so used to seeing and those kind of things. It was moving southwest to northeast, as most storms do. And I had been watching this system for most of the day. So I decided, I've not really given my son a lot of attention. He's 6 and he was 4 at the time. Haven't really given my son a lot of attention. So I wanted to go and give him some love. And I actually volunteered to give him a bath, one of those simple things that fathers do for their sons. As I'm bathing him, though, I've got the radar on my phone in the corner of my eye, and I'm watching this storm. expecting it to move up into Dallas County and not really be my problem. Well, of course, right at that point, because these storms like to mess with me occasionally, it took a right turn, which is indicative of a rotating supercell thunderstorm. And it moved right into the rotating part of the storm, moved right into the Midlothian area. And so it was really a moment that taught me not only to go full speed ahead with my instincts, because I didn't want to use the T word, because it just looked really atypical. And there was no warning from the National Weather Service. There were no spotters that were sending information in the area. So it was kind of a confusing moment. And this is the same time that there was a tornado moving through the North Dallas area. So when it comes to all of the Dallas media sources, they were so focused on that very densely populated area that this particular storm in the Midlothian area was not really getting much coverage. But in fact, an F1 tornado had touched down and moved through the Midlothian area that evening and did do some pretty decent damage to a neighborhood there. The storm eventually went on to spare the Red Oak area, and then it touched down again over in the Ferris area, did some damage there. By then it was tornado warned, but that kind of caught everyone off guard. It certainly caught me off guard, and it taught me to be a little more confident, because I wasn't entirely sure I was seeing what I thought I was seeing. You know, it was kind of one of those surreal moments where a storm just kind of takes you by surprise. And I try to be cautious, because anytime in Texas you say tornado, people jump into action, and you don't ever want to have that crying wolf moment where you think you're seeing a tornado and then you don't, and then people don't take you very seriously after that. So you have to be careful with your messaging. But if there was ever a moment that taught me, just go with the instincts and know for sure that the imposter syndrome is not real, and you're really in the moment to go ahead and put the message out there that needs to be there.
When there is a tornado that you think is touching down or is forming, can you see it on your instruments and your gadgets?
Yes and no. And that's a great question, because I can see the indications of rotation on radar. There's a velocity model where it's the reds and the greens. You've probably seen me put it up there many times. And based on what the winds, that's wind direction and speed. And based on what the winds are doing, I can tell that there's rotation. You can tell when that rotation tightens, and you can tell when a tornado is certainly imminent, if not already produced. And there's one other tell at times. There is a radar called, it's a radar model called the correlation coefficient. And what you can tell is you can tell the difference between objects going downward and then coming upward. And downward, you can see where the rain is. But occasionally in a storm, you can see that there are objects that are not moving up downward. In fact, they're moving upward, and that's your debris. So at times, radar can indicate a tornado very quickly when you have that debris. Sometimes it takes a relatively large tornado to actually make that really visible. Sometimes it takes looking at it after the fact and saying, okay, yeah, that was the tornado, because different things happen, and sometimes in the moment it's tough. But that's why I rely so strongly on storm spotters in the field, because there's nothing like a storm spotter being in the field, being able to tell you, I am looking at a tornado that is on the ground right now. I can see the dust cloud coming up from the surface. And we call that ground truth. And that kind of confirmation is absolutely invaluable. The tornado we had in the Foreston area was at night. It was really hard to get confirmation there. There was a lot of confusion. But as soon as the tornado was on the ground, of course, the lightning strikes were lighting it up. And I've shown some of those images before. But when it comes to actually calling a tornado, sometimes when it's just radar indication, you have to say possible tornado or potential tornado or likely tornado. You can't really say for sure unless you have somebody actually looking at the tornado confirming for you, somebody that's trained, confirming that it is indeed there and it indeed has touched the ground.
I saw that when I think in the most recent we had a kind of a tornado pop out of nowhere near the Maypro area, and it was basically coming through Scarborough, and people were just lighting up the comments and, hey, it's coming, it's here, or we see it, and you were getting footage. You're like, hey, I'm processing this, I'm checking this out. So it comes at you pretty fast. I imagine your moderator gets pretty swamped there, you know.
He does, and he does a really good job of trying to bring me the pertinent information. He tries to kind of narrow it down to what I really need to see, what I really need to know. At times, like a day like that day, when the sun is up and we can see something, sometimes it's just drinking water from a fire hose and I'll do the best I can. And there's times too when I get messages of, hey, I'm looking at a tornado and it's a picture from Birmingham, Alabama back in 2015. So, just because people they want to be that source and they want to have something. So at times I have to verify it was actually taken today. And sometimes I'm able to corroborate that based on other images. But you talk about that tornado in the Maypearl area that came out of Itasca. That day was supposed to be a rain day. That was the forecast, was heavy rain, possible flooding. That was the issue. And then this lone severe storm, this supercell out of northern Hill County, becomes tornado warned. And I am not kidding you guys. I was relaxing in bed at that point. I was dealing with kind of some foot pain, and I was trying not to strain that foot too much. So I was laying in bed when my phone dings, and there's a tornado warning in northern Hill County. And I kind of thought, have you guys lost it? There's something going on. And I look at the radar, and sure enough, and as I'm flying, I'm not sure how many times my feet actually hit the ground between my bed and the studio. I'm pretty sure I was airborne most of that time. I was on the phone with my moderator saying, hey, there's a tornado in Itasca. And he kind of gave the same reaction of, that I had. He checked radar and saw it too. So we sprang into action. But that's the nice thing about working from home is I'm really, really close. The commute is very simple. Yeah. But the information overload, it happens quickly. But fortunately, I've been blessed with the ability, I guess, to take that all in and to kind of process all of that. And I've studied long enough to know what to look for. And so, when folks are out there sending in footage, that helps me to confirm what's happening.
And that's kind of, I'm going to go into that here in just a second. I wanted to ask you to kind of get into the one thing that weather guys normally don't want to do too much of, predicting. What are we looking at coming up as far as this, fall and into winter? What is the science saying so far? I heard something about La Nina forming up and that such. How will that influence our weather?
So I always tell people, I try not to forecast out 3 months because I'm still trying to figure out 3 days ahead of time. But, I haven't looked into too much of the long-term stuff quite yet. I am working on trying to confirm a little bit more of what's coming in the near term, and then really what the fall looks like, the hurricane potential, and those kind of things, what that's actually going to turn into, what that's going to mean. We also, when it comes to La Nina, that may be a possibility of something to look for in the future. I'm going to check into that as well. I don't have much of an answer for you. I've been working so hard on some updates around the studio and kind of settling some business things around. So I haven't. Additionally, I'll just say that, my day job working at Hope Clinic here in Waxahachie has been very busy. So I hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to start kind of formulating what that longer term forecast looks like. One of the biggest questions I've gotten is, are we going to have another potentially deadly winter? And there's really no way to know. Some of the seasons have been really just off the charts recently. We had such a crazy rainy May that was preceded by that obviously crazy winter that was preceded by a very active hurricane season, a record hurricane season that was preempted by another crazy summer before. So we've had some pretty nutso weather. So it's getting harder and harder to predict what's going to happen or to know if we're going to have a typical season or not, because over and over again, we keep getting surprised and keep getting shown just how crazy Mother Nature can be. So, but be watching Ellis County weather for some more discussion on kind of what some of those long-term projections might look like. But I can already tell you, we always hear winter's going to be kind of dry and mild. Hurricane season might be crazy, and the fall will get cool eventually. So that, that's kind of what we hear year round. So if I had to sit on something right now, I'd probably just say that, because it's usually a pretty safe bet.
Winter's coming.
Eventually,
Had to go there.
Hopefully this winter will be a little less controversial. Hopefully it'll be a little quieter than the last one.
So during your broadcast, before we wrap up, what can people do to help you during your broadcast when you're talking about the weather, local weather?
Yeah, a few things I'll mention is if you're sending in a picture or a report or something of that nature, give me a location. I get a lot of messages where I'm being told it's hailing at my house, and I'm going. Ellis County is a big county, and I don't know exactly where your house is, and that kind of information does help. Sometimes that can help confirm what I'm seeing, or it can tell me possibly that my information is outdated, or whatever the case might be, or that might mean I need to shift my attention over to a different part of the county. There's a number of different things that can indicate. But if you're sending me information or a photograph or something, tell me where you're located at that time, or where you got that information, where you were when that happened, because that's going to allow me to get that field information, that ground truth we talked about, but also know where it's actually happening. So if anything, I would say that, and there's always the opportunity to send the stars and the financial help as well. If you're a business that wants to advertise for Ellis County Weather, you're welcome to reach out to me. This stuff, it takes time, and so to be able to earn a little bit and share that with my family, to give back to them for all the time that they're giving me up, means a lot to me as well. And hey, this, it doesn't cost much. I don't have a whole lot of overhead, but there's some subscriptions that I have and things, so to cover those costs as well is helpful. But the main thing, if you're sending in a report of weather you're experiencing, or a photograph or a video, give me a location. That'll help a lot.
Where can people donate to you to help your operation grow?
Well, I don't have anything posted at the moment as far as the Cash App and that kind of thing. I don't really use that so much anymore. Really, I would say if you go to any of the videos that have been posted, any of the segments I posted, those kind of things, it says where you can send stars, and that's kind of Facebook's version of super chats on YouTube, that kind of thing. And I think a star is 1 cent. So you send 100 stars, that's like $1. It's not a whole lot, but it adds up quickly. So if you want to go support Ellis County Weather, that's probably the easiest way to do it. It's the stars throughout the spring. The number of stars I got was just absolute insanity. People being very, very generous in supporting me. So I would say if you're looking to give financial support, the stars is probably the easiest and quickest way to do it.
Well, there you have it, guys. Local media, like I said, local medias are not, it does cost money to do these things. I do it as a labor of love, and Kevin does it as a labor of love too, but it also has to pay the bills. And there's things that go into that, into his programs, to making sure he's accurate in your weather prediction. Mr. Crouch, thank you so much for doing what you do for the community. I love having people on that affect our community. And it was a pleasure to have you on, because you help us in Ellis County. Your weather reports are accurate and on point, and I really appreciate your service to this community.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate your kind words, and there's always more to come.
Definitely. I'll be watching you, and my wife will too. She's usually, hey, he's on. That's my wife. So, well, you take care.